So right now, the MacBook Neo is currently sucking up all of the attention in the Apple tech press, but there were actually a number of great products that were announced last week. From an iPad perspective, the iPad Air, which is often cited as one of the more popular iPads, got updated with the M4 chip. Now, the M4 isn't completely new to the iPad line. The iPad Pro from 2024 came out with the M4 chip, but these two chips are not exactly the same. There are a couple of differences between what we have in the Air and what we got in the Pro that I'll talk about in this video, as well as giving you my initial impressions and thoughts on this iPad Air now that I've had it for a few days to mess around with it. Spoiler, I really like this iPad. Last year I got the 11-inch Air. This year I jumped up to the 13, and I think that jumping up to the 13-inch may really be the right move for me. This tablet feels surprisingly good to use. So let's start, as always, with the industrial design and build quality. Historically, iPads are built really solidly, and the M4 Air is no exception. We've got the same industrial design and same color selection that we've had for a couple of years now. Now, if you're a frequent upgrader, that's probably going to be disappointing. But if you're more infrequent, say you're updating from the M1 Air, for example, you probably will get something new with this design. Maybe it's a new color, or maybe it's the landscape-oriented camera that came to the Air a few years ago. This year, I waffled back and forth between the purple and the blue Air, but Best Buy only had purple in stock, so that made my decision for me. The iPad Air does remain ever so slightly thicker than the iPad Pro, and I know that bugs a lot of people because on the Mac side, Air means the thinnest, but funny story, with the MacBook Neo, it actually weighs the same as the MacBook Air, so it won't just be us iPad users getting aggravated over silly things. So the biggest change in this Air over last year's Air is the inclusion of the M4 chip. But what does that really mean for this iPad? So if you're someone who upgrades frequently, say you have the M3 and you want to upgrade to the M4 for whatever reason, you're not going to see a huge difference here. I don't put a ton of stock in benchmarks, but they do give you a useful point of comparison. I ran Geekbench 6 across 3 of my iPads, and it shows the M4 iPad Air coming in about 17% faster than its predecessor in single-core scores, and a little under 10% faster in multi-core benchmarks. On the GPU front, it's about a 13% increase over the M3. All that to say, the year-over-year performance upgrades follow the same patterns as on the Mac. You see smaller gains year-over-year, but they definitely add up over time the longer you wait to upgrade. So one of the big benefits of the M4 over the M3 is that it was built with a more efficient process. It means that it can run cooler and for longer than the M3. The net effect is that the M4 should be able to run at higher sustained speeds for longer without your iPad getting as hot. The GPU is also slightly improved on the M4 over the M3. Now, if you're coming from anything lower than the M3, this is going to be the first time you have an iPad that supports hardware-accelerated ray tracing and mesh shading for more immersive games on the Air's Liquid Retina display. Speaking of that display, it is the same display that the iPad Air has been using for years. Yes, it's still a 60Hz display. Yes, it should have ProMotion by now, but it doesn't. The 60Hz on this 13-inch Air so far has not been a problem. It's not stood out to me the way it kind of did on the 11-inch, but I know that bugs a lot of people on the iPad Air specifically. If you're planning on upgrading to the new Air, one accessory you'll definitely want to consider is the Moft Dynamic Folio. Now, I love when I get to work with these folks because even though we're partnering on this video, I was a Moft customer before I even considered having a YouTube channel. This updated version addresses one of the main complaints I see with other iPad cases, and that's edge protection. Now, this case supports a number of different postures, which means you're going to have a lot of flexibility in how you choose to use it. So my main use for this case is actually supporting my note-taking during the workday. The Dynamic Folio elevates the iPad to a position that's a little more comfortable for me to write on when I'm using the Apple Pencil. But it's also been great when I'm taking a break from working and I want to watch some YouTube while I'm having lunch or just taking a break. This position also pairs great with Apple's Sidecar feature that lets you use your iPad as an extended display for your Mac. I like using this case with the optional magnetic pencil holder. My iPad comes with me everywhere, and the pencil holder makes sure my Apple Pencil stays put and doesn't fall off when it's in my bag. The biggest appeal of this case is how thin this whole setup is. It's great that you get this additional protection while keeping your iPad thin and light. Moft offers a number of different setups to match how you want to work or create. So make sure you tap on the link in the description to find your perfect setup. My thanks to Moft for their support of the channel. On the iPad Air, we're getting an 8-core CPU with 3 performance cores and 5 efficiency cores. On the M4 that was in the iPad Pro, we had a configuration with 9 cores and a configuration with 10 cores. So multitasking workloads won't be quite as fast with the M4 Air as it was the M4 Pro, but should still be a nice bump over the previous models. The M4 Air comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM, up from 8 in the previous few models, which is great. Some people will still tell you that RAM does not make a difference on iPads because nothing takes advantage of it. And of course, you know, if you use any of the pro apps on the platform like Final Cut, like DaVinci, like ZBrush, you know that is, of course, completely false. The biggest day-to-day impact you're going to see with that additional RAM is improved multitasking. Keep in mind, with iPadOS 26, the way the multitasking works if you're using Windows is that as you're opening Windows, as the system runs out of resources, some of the older apps start getting suspended in the background to free up resources for the new apps you're opening. So the additional 4 gigs of RAM really just means that more of your app will stay alive for longer in the background. The M4 Air gets moved to Apple's N1 wireless chip, which brings support for both Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6. Now, to be completely honest, this means nothing to me because I don't have a Wi-Fi 7 router. Chances are you don't either, but I know some people get upset when new Apple devices don't support the absolute latest networking standards. If you opted for the cellular model, which I may start recommending in the future actually, the Air comes with Apple's C1X modem that's in the cellular iPad Pro and some of the new iPhones as well. The big draw of that chip is supposedly more battery efficient 5G performance. I have an iPad with the C1X and a Qualcomm modem here. I can't tell any difference between them, to be honest. So as far as accessories go, the nice thing about Apple keeping the same design year after year is that you may not have to buy new accessories if you're upgrading to the M4. If you're coming from the M2 or M3 iPad Air, unless you're switching sizes like I did, all the same accessories should still work because the designs are unchanged. One nice little benefit I had forgotten about but rediscovered is that since the 13-inch Air uses the same body as the old 12.9-inch Pro, my original generation Magic Keyboard that I have works perfectly with this iPad. So I don't know that there's much more to say at this point. I just wanted to get a video out to get my initial thoughts and impressions on the iPad Air M4 now that I've had it for a few days. I plan on putting this through its paces, especially I want to see how it compares to my M4 iPad Pro that I use as my computer. It runs the channel today. Curious how close this less expensive iPad gets to that high-end iPad experience that I've been used to. So make sure you are subscribed for that in the coming weeks. That's going to do it for this one. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I appreciate you and your time. If you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would help me and the channel out a bunch. Make sure to visit slatepad.org for everything I'm writing, generally iPad related stuff. And with that, I will catch you in the next one. Thank you and take care.